Like most teenage girls, Minnie Getz, played by Bel Powley, is longing for love, acceptance, and a sense of purpose in the world. So through a series of relatable and let's just say, quote-unquote, human events, Minnie begins a complex love affair with her mother's boyfriend, whom she describes as the handsomest man in the world. And what follows is a surprisingly sharp, funny, and provocative account of one girl's sexual and artistic awakening without judgment. And that's a very hard act to pull off, but pull it off, director and cast, they do in The Diary of a Teenage Girl, which is based on the novel by Phoebe Gloeckner. Joining us now on behalf of The Diary of a Teenage Girl is actress, writer, director Marielle Heller and lead ensemble cast member Bel Powley, a rising British actress whose work already spans stage and the big screen. Ladies, thank you both for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I guess as good a place as any to start, Marielle, with the long effort that you mounted to win the rights to adapt Diary of a Teenage Girl into a movie. I know you were immersed in the material for like 8 years. It began as a novel and then a play in which you played the lead role that Bel plays in the movie. Can you talk about the experience of the play, adapting the novel into a play, starring in the play, playing Minnie Getz yourself, and then how you used all that in making the transition to recreating this as a film with another actress playing a part with whom you were so closely identified?
Yeah. It's been like a long love affair I've been having with this book, this story, this character, and it's taken so many different incarnations. I guess, it all started when I read Phoebe Gloeckner's book, and I had never come across a book that I felt like was so honest in its depiction of female sexuality and what it feels like to be a teenage girl. I was just so blown away, and I really just felt compelled, like I have to make this into something. And I come from the theater. Bel and I both come from theater. And so my first instinct was to make it into a play. And I, like you said, I kind of stalked Phoebe and her agents until they gave me the rights. And it took many months. And then it took many more years for me to figure out how to both adapt a book into a play, but also then how to produce a play and get the support I needed to put it up in New York. We did an off-Broadway production that was amazing. It was the best thing I had ever done. And then I put it away and felt like I was done with it. And at some point realized I was still in love with Minnie and needed to do something more with it. And so that's when I started thinking about it as a film.
You said compelled, and I guess you hear that a lot in film. Something really grabs them, but obviously you would have had to be in a way, and I mean this in a positive way, sort of obsessed with this material, because 8 years is a long time. It's
true, and I've never tired of Minnie in all of these 8 years. I've never wavered in my love for this story and my belief that this story is one that needs to be told. It is a bit of an obsession. I think, when you come across a character like that, you almost don't realize how much you've been missing something like that until you find it.
Tell me about it, really, yeah.
Yeah, it was like I didn't realize that I had never, ever felt my own teenagehood reflected, honestly. And as soon as I did, I think it's why we all seek to see ourselves be reflected in film and media, because it makes you feel less alone.
Was the play as controversial as the movie appears to be becoming?
Yeah, I would say really. So. I mean, I think the material lends itself to being slightly controversial, but maybe theater audiences perhaps are a little more accustomed to controversial material.
Sex in the play.
We didn't have a ton of nudity in the play, but we kind of simulated sex, and then there was also video montage stuff that would happen because we did a bunch of we had projectable spaces and we had animation and also video projected.
The source I read said something about the set was carpeted, sunken living room and pillows for the audience to sit on.
It was all in the round.
Was that to get them in the mood too?
Yeah, it was kind of to create a totally immersive experience.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Bel, did you see Marielle's production of the play, or did you read the book? Or?
I didn't see the play. When I first read the script, I didn't know it had been a play. I didn't know it had been a play. I also didn't even know that it was a novel. Like, the first I heard of it was the script. And then after Mari cast me, we kind of decided together whether it was a good idea for me to read the novel or not. I feel like as an actor, sometimes it can be a hindrance and sometimes it can be a help. But in the end, I did read it. I read it like maybe 2 or 3 months before we started filming, because it's a big book. So I kind of absorbed all the information from the book, which was really useful because it's from Minnie's point of view. So it was only kind of more material to play with. But I took time to absorb it and then take from it what I wanted to and weave it into my...
I'm curious how Bel's interpretation of Minnie was different than yours, Marielle.
I'm curious too, because I'll never know.
Well, did you find that you had to walk a fine line in directing her performance, like vis-a-vis allowing her own freedom to discover the part?
Oh, I mean, I'm an actor, so I understand so much what the process of creating a character as an actor is, and I wanted Bel to have that entire experience where she was able to create this character. I never once said to her or would dream of saying to her, well, the way I did it was, because that would have just been horrible. Oh. And actually, there's something about Minnie where I think she's sort of this fictionalized character that both Bel and I just loved and understood innately and respected, almost separate from ourselves. Mm-hmm. And even when I played her, she was sort of this separate entity, this fictionalized teenage girl who sort of represents every girl that I wanted to honor and do my best by. And so when I met Bel, I felt like she innately understood this character similarly, just in her bones. And obviously her Minnie was different than mine, but something about the truth of it was just there. And she just knew her.
Well, what struck me most about what you did, Bel, in this film, it was a performance that demanded really, I think, great technical skill. From a film perspective, you presumably shot out a sequence, which required you to present your character's state of mind at any given moment and on any given day. You were physically in just about every scene, and you had to act and react to what was literally nothing on set later to be replaced with animation. Yeah. So anyway, can you talk about filming out of sequence? Your character goes through this emotional journey, this intense emotional journey of self-discovery, tracking this very specific, nuanced emotional arc. Can you talk about how, also being the fulcrum of the piece, how you managed that through line, and how much of that was Marielle, how much was what you had to do?
The first thing I did before we started shooting, which was also something that Mara and I decided together, was that I learnt the whole script off by heart, like as if it was a play. And I'm used to doing that because I come from a theatre background. I'm used to learning 90 pages of text. So I learnt the whole thing because I knew that when we got there, we'd be filming out of sequence. It's indie filmmaking, so stuff would change all the time. So that was really useful for us because it meant that whenever we needed to chop and change or replace a scene, I knew where I was immediately. And also it was just helpful for me getting it straight in my head to know everything off by heart, every sequence of event and all the words. But we actually, even though we shot out of sequence, we shot in like a really useful sequence.
Really?
We shot all the sex scenes in the first week, which you would think is a really bad idea. And initially I was terrified by that notion. But Alex and I and Mari had 2 weeks rehearsal beforehand where we kind of mapped out Minnie and Monroe's relationship. So we knew kind of emotionally where we were at each point. And then we just dove into all the sex scenes. So we did all of them. And then Kristen Wiig joined us after we'd done all of that. So it kind of reflects what happened in the movie.
Yeah.
We had the secret. We'd done all this filming. We'd done all these sex scenes without her. And then we shot all of the parts with Kristen out of sequence. And then the kind of third part of filming was when we lost Kristen and Alex. And then we shot kind of the third act of Minnie's journey with Tabitha, with Ricky kind of leaving the house. So even though it was out of sequence, it worked in a really good sequence for me.
It sounds like it was like epic planning. I mean, really, in terms of...
I wish I could take credit for it. It was much more about everybody's schedules and trying to balance everything, but it did end up working well.
Yeah, it did. It really did. That was Marielle Heller. We're with her and Bel Powley, a writer, director, and lead ensemble cast member, respectively, of The Diary of a Teenage Girl, a coming-of-age story about sex and sexual awakening from the girl's point of view. What a concept.
And a rare concept, right?
and really, what is it about American film in general that just tends to shy away from this kind of material? And then this recent UK thing, where they give it an 18 certificate, and I think their reason was for explicit sex scenes. I don't remember any.
Is what they said.
Yeah, 18. Yeah. So what is? I mean, that's a expected question.
I don't think it's like just to do with film. I think it's to do with society in general. Like we're scared of teenage girls and are scared of teenage girls being sexualized, and it's like a vicious cycle. Like we won't talk about it because we're scared of it, and we're scared of it, so we won't talk about it.
Well, you said it, the fear, I think, because it's nuts in a way. I mean, you want to just say, can't we just, for 10 seconds, just stop instead of reacting, calmly sort of like let it be, and then look at it and use the faculties that, raise us above the other animals, which is our reason and our logic. And but we never do. And it's funny, sex in general, but underage sex, female sexuality for women.
Female sexuality, really, because there are so many movies about boys' sexuality. There's teenage boys wanting to get laid, masturbating, having sex with a pie. All of that is totally fine. It's hilarious even. But when we talk about teenage girls, it feels like we have this desire to shelter them, to take care of them, and we don't want to think about them having sex, when the truth of the matter is, sorry, most teenage girls do have sex, and definitely all of them think about it, whether they're doing it or not. And we don't even want to know that. It's really unfortunate, because I think the sad effect of that is when you are a teenage girl who's thinking about sex, who's horny, who's any of the normal thoughts that you might have, you end up feeling like something's wrong with you because you don't see that reflected anywhere. You see boys are the ones who are going to be thinking about sex. You're supposed to be just guarding your virginity with your life, deciding when to give it away. Well,
you addressed that queasiness right off the bat with the opening lines of the movie. I mean, I had sex today. Holy shit. And talk about pulling you into the movie. I remember Robert Wise used to say that his goal as a director, he felt his goal as a director was to grab the audience as soon out of the gate as possible. And I think he would have really been envious of this movie, because you don't even wait. It's like it's just right in your face, and you think, oh God, this is going to be an adventure, this movie.
Yeah,
but
it's
a
true.
Refreshing one.
I think traditionally the way you should write a script, quote unquote, is we should have had 30 pages where you got to know the character before she dove into her sexual journey.
Right.
And then at the Act 1 break at page 30, you would have been, oh, now she had sex. I think ours happens in like 30 seconds into the movie.
Shooting nudity and directing scenes in a film which require nudity and acting nude scenes. Can you both talk about the potential on-set discomfort of that? How perhaps as actor and director you work through that in order to achieve the goals and the meaning of the scenes which require the use of nudity? Well,
we were really conscious about the way we used nudity within this film. It was something that Bel and I discussed in great detail, both because I wanted to make sure she felt incredibly comfortable, but we really wanted the sex and nudity to be taken sort of from the female perspective and to never be gratuitous and to never feel exploitative. So actually, the majority of the nudity is in non-sexual scenes.
You're absolutely right about that. That's why I think I had a weird response to that certificate thing, because really it's just...
There's really not graphic sex in the film. There is a lot of sex, but it's rarely super sexy. It's definitely not gratuitous. It's often awkward and funny more than it is really sexy. And then there's scenes of Minnie just examining her body in the mirror. That's where there's the most nudity, and scenes of her kind of just feeling what it is to have a changing body.
Yeah. I mean, obviously shooting sex scenes, like being naked with a bunch of people you don't know and having like Band-Aids covering you.
And wires and lights.
It's like, of course, it's like weird. But I don't know, it never felt gratuitous. Like Mari really like held my hand throughout the whole thing, and it just all felt so right. I remember when I first got like the nudity rider through, and it was like 12 pages long or something, and my first thought was, whoa, I don't remember there being this much sex in this movie. And that kind of showed to me immediately that it's not gratuitous. Like, it hadn't stood out to me. It's not, you don't come away from it being like, well, that movie had a lot of sex in it. You come away from it being like, that was an amazing movie about exploration and growing up,
right,
and stuff.
Coming of age and all that. Well, what I really loved about the story, I think, is, and we seldom hear this message in films, it's seldom taught to children, is that basically, our self-worth in the end is inside. And in the final analysis, it's independent of external form, other people, whatever our financial situation is. Even adults, a lot of times they don't even think of that. Mm-hmm. So in a way, I really think, at the risk of sounding whatever, adding to the controversy, I think this movie should be shown in schools, and then dialogue should follow that.
I hope a conversation could follow. I love that too. I think women in particular get that lesson a lot, that your self-worth is wrapped up in whether or not men are interested in you and what you look like on the outside. And I think you nailed it on the head. The lesson of this movie is really that your self-worth comes from within.
Marielle Heller and Bel Powley, writer-director and lead ensemble cast member, respectively, of The Diary of a Teenage Girl. It's a coming-of-age story about sex and sexual awakening from the girl's point of view. And guys, there's lots in here for you too. So check this out. Ladies, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.